Garden Report is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome back to the Garden Report from Celtics Media Day. Noah Dalzell here, and Kristaps Porzingis addressed the media today and got an update from an ESPN story as well that he could be back in December, maybe even a little bit earlier if his recovery continues to progress well. Porzingis, Stevens, both super excited about where Porzingis is at, despite them not putting a timeline on it here in their pressers when he could be back. Here's Porzingis talking about his recovery so far.
I'm walking obviously with nothing. I'm running. I'm on the court, shooting, normal. I'm doing a lot of stuff, honestly. I was already kind of with some light contact doing some stuff also. Felt really good afterwards. So, I think it's a really good sign that we have from the other day. And again, I'm optimistic as always.
Did you say you are running?
Yeah.
And was the light contact like recently, like last week or soon?
Yeah. It was what was it? During the weekend, I think.
So, what did you feel from listening to him talk, listening to Stevens, the story too, which put it a little more concretely? Do you think we're going to see Porzingis on the earlier side this year? Or is this going to be something that they wait out, that they're super cautious with, and it's going to be Christmas time, maybe even to January before we see him?
Yeah. So first of all, I think they're going to drag this out because why rush him, right? I think, this is a rare injury. They've made that clear. He said today, that he feels like he could come back sooner and that he's already feeling kind of antsy. I thought that I was shocked to learn that he's already doing light contact and running this early on. I mean, we're talking September, right? The timeline for him to come back is December. But at the same time, I had a strong deja vu from the finals. We're sitting in the same room here, and I didn't even think we were going to hear from him today, honestly. And all of a sudden he walks through, he's all happy. He sits at the podium and he gives us this update of I'm ready to go forward, but I need to listen to the medical staff. And obviously that was a very different circumstance. It was the calf injury and the stakes were a lot higher with the finals around the corner. But I think it's going to be the same dynamic of him probably feeling good. It sounds like there's been no hiccups in his recovery and that everything's been going according to plan. But when you just think about the big picture, there's really no reason to risk things or to rush him forward because you jeopardize, you could give up the number 1 or number 2 seed for his health long term. That's going to be way more important.
Yeah. And Brad Stevens said that they're almost surprised by how quickly he's progressed to this point. I think that was pretty positive, as well as you mentioned, the contact, the things he's been able to do so far through the recovery process. It does bring me back to the finals because we're sitting here, we're wondering, is he going to go? Is he going to look right? Maybe he's trying to play through it and it's not going to be effective. And then he comes out in that game 1 and just destroys the world and one of the more iconic performances of that run. He actually mentioned it up here, going through injuries throughout his career is actually going to put him in a good place to not be rusty, to step back into the lineup and just go. And I think that's more important than anything. No matter how long it takes, is he ready to go? Is he going to be fully healthy at the point where he's back and there's no setbacks? I'm sure he'll set out back-to-backs and all that kind of stuff. But when he's out there, he's Porzingis. Because last year, so effective, so dominant, such a game changer. Even though they were great without him, they went to another level with him.
Yeah, and honestly, I asked him about, the fact that he was able to contribute in the finals. He had that, legacy game 1 and everybody's going to remember that quarter and kind of how he went off against the Mavericks. And I was curious if it's been helpful from a mindset standpoint. Now you're working out, you're once again in the rehab process, which I can only imagine how frustrating it is for an athlete to have to do it over and over and over again. But he seemed to take it differently rather than thinking about how he can use that as motivation or at least know that he got the championship and was a contributor. He just was kind of I don't lose confidence in myself because I know I've done it before. This is a different injury. He's never done, I don't even want to try to pronounce the thing that he tore, but he's had so many different things, the knees, the calves.
Is that it?
Maybe. Yeah. So I think the main thing for him is that he's not somebody that's thinking to himself, am I going to be back the same way? Am I going to be able to do this? The advantage in having had so many injuries, I think, is that you now know that you can come back and be the same player that you were. There's no reason to think that this is the one that he can't bounce back from, right? It's not that type of injury where people are wondering, is he going to be able to go back to form? And the most important thing is that he has the confidence level. If we're talking about, knock on wood, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown, guys that haven't really dealt with those kinds of major injuries, that can affect you mentally a little bit more. So I think on the flip side, he's so confident that he can come back from this. And that was a big takeaway from just his whole energy at the presser today.
related to that, Luke Cornett underwent wrist surgery. He's ready to go for camp. Xavier Tillman, who I think we'll hear from maybe tomorrow, knee scope, dealt with some swelling, some knee issues that kept him off the court once he got traded, and in Memphis, from Memphis to Boston. A tough year health-wise for him. He didn't look right for much of his time here in Boston. So hopefully that sorts that out, because they're going to rely on him, going to rely on Cornett. Even Al Horford, who said he's just starting to get to that shape level he needs to be able to start and fill the minutes that he's going to log this year with Porzingis out. With all that considered, how do you feel about the centers that they have in place, the depth that they have in place to get by without Porzingis?
Yeah, it's funny. So I didn't know about either of those surgeries. You know, I'm not surprised to hear about it, specifically the Xavier Tillman one. I think it was a little underreported and underdiscussed, some of the knee stuff that he was dealing with. But throughout the last few weeks, I've been doing these like live shows where people have been asking like, who from the big man rotation do you think is going to be like the major contributor? And I've been saying to Miyush Keita, not because of any health reason, but I feel like he just has the highest ceiling of the three. But now after media day, seeing that the other two guys are actually in like a recovery process from surgery, I feel even more optimistic about that prediction that Keita is going to actually have like a real rotation role early on, especially.
He's probably been doing the most work of anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that he's dealing with anything health-wise, at least that we know about. And he was obviously Summer League, like the first few games of Summer League were kind of structured around giving him opportunities to practice out different defensive schemes. So I think people are going to be surprised. We're going to see a lot of Neemias Queta early on, especially now that I know that the other two rotation bigs that he's battling for minutes with potentially might be on some sort of minutes restriction. I would imagine maybe Xavier more than Luke. I think the wrist thing, once it's healed, he'll probably be good to go.
Yeah, I think Tillman's going to be more of a, if Al's out as well as Porzingis, it's going to be a Tillman night. If not, I think they love Cornett. He's the guy. He's the backup. As I've expressed many times, he's the most suited on the average night to fill in and give you good minutes at that spot, play your defensive system as well as your offense. He talked about being more aggressive this year. So I think he's ready to go. I think he's going to be effective. He said he's been able to play a little bit since the surgery as well. So he's got his feet under him since it was his wrist anyway. And Keita, like you said, he went through that injury a year ago, came into camp with the foot, hurt himself again in the preseason, had to miss the start of last year. So he actually gets this fresh start. And he came into camp a little bit just like Holiday, pretty late last year too, signing from Sacramento. So he has that full off season. He's going to hit the ground running. That's actually something I agree with you quite a bit on, is that he's in a good position to take a leap this year, and he'll have opportunities. All these guys will, as Horford and others mentioned here today. We're powered by Prize Picks as well as Game Time. Go check them out, and check out the rest of our coverage here at Celtics Media Day, and we'll be here all week for Celtics practice as camp gets underway ahead of the Abu Dhabi trip. For Noah Dalzell, I'm Bobby Manning. This has been the Garden Report. Hey, Bobby Manning here. If you made it this far, you probably enjoyed our video, so subscribe to our channel for all content. Hit the bell for notifications and subscribe to all of our social media platforms at Celtics CLNS.